All right, it is Wednesday, June 3rd, and we are Zoom cooking with Chef Brassard. Today, we are doing a pineapple salsa, right? Fresh, okay? I'm also going to be, besides just the salsa, I'm going to be doing some sauteed shrimp, right, to show you something to serve this with. It makes a great summer dish, right? You know, now that we're getting into the season where a lot of fresh produce and things like that, a lot of these things are easy to find this time of year, but also price-wise, right, lower in cost, right, because it is so readily available. So I'm going to start off with the salsa, and then I'm going to show you guys some quick sauteed shrimp to go with it. Like I said, this salsa is also good for things like grilled chicken, pork, so some pork chops off the grill or saute them in the pan. Even whole fillets of fish and things as well, right? It's just a nice, light, little sweet, a little spicy, right? You can make it really spicy if you want, but we'll talk about that in a little bit, okay? So we're gonna start off with a fresh pineapple, okay, from the grocery store. And, you know, it doesn't have to be too big, right? You can see the size of this one. So I need about 3 cups of pineapple, so it'll be most of the pineapple as we go by the time we take off all the skin, the peel off the outside, and take out the core. Okay, so if you've never cut a pineapple before, you're going to learn how to do that today. Okay, so I'm going to set this little guy down here first, and then I'm going to show you. So let me just tip a little bit. Okay, and so like I said, we're going to start off with whole fresh pineapple, right? And I need to take off each end to make this easier to cut, okay, and to peel the skin off the outside. So I'm going to take a large knife, right? And I just want to cut down and take that top off, right? So we take that off first. Now I'm going to come around to this back side, and I want to take and slice off the very bottom, okay? So now I can take my pineapple and I can sit it flat, right? So this is going to make it much safer to try and peel than if I have it without cutting the base off, because this is so wobbly, okay? So with your knife, right, you're going to have it so that the blade's away from you. I'm going to peel on the outside away from me, right? So I'm going to peel down. So I'm going to start up here at the top and come down like this, okay? After you get that first cut, it gets a little bit easier to get in there to get that off, right? Any big eyes and things like that, you can go in and shave them out, okay? Afterwards, it's not a big deal. Like I said, this is nice and fresh. It goes great with your grilled foods. It'll hold in the fridge, you know, 3 to 5 days if it lasts that long, right? So everybody eats it. I know I love fresh pineapple, so this won't last very long around here this week. But, okay, so now you can see I've got the pineapple all fully peeled, right? So we're just going to toss these out of our way here. This is really good too if you can let salsa sit for a little bit and get really good and cold, right, before you serve it. Okay? So now the easiest way to do this, because I need to get this into small bite-sized pieces, right, is I need to dice it up. So I'm going to go straight through that center core, right? So that's what I'm aiming for here. So I'm going to go right down and I'm going to slice straight through, okay? It's good to have a towel handy too, because pineapple gets a little slippery, right? So that way you can keep wiping your hands off. So I'm going to come in with the knife right up at the very top, right? I'm going to use the top of the blade, right, as my lever. So as I go down, okay? And I'm going to slice through, right? So you can see inside the fresh pineapple that that's that core, right? You can still eat it and chew on it, but it's really tough and fibrous. So I don't want that inside the salsa, right? Because it's going to make it a little bit too chewy. So I'm going to take and slice each of these halves into quarters. And right down the center of each, okay? Now it's going to be making it much easier to get this core piece out. So I'm going to show you a little trick for getting that out real quick. So if you take, you slice down at a 45-degree angle, right? So you can see I got an angle on the blade, right? I'm just going to slice down and I can get that core right out, okay? Once you have your core piece out, this will help this sit a little bit flatter too, right? So I'm just going to slice down on my pineapple. About 1/2-inch size pieces. And then I can go this way, right, and dice that up. Now you're gonna wanna have a big bowl handy to put all this in, okay? Like I said, this sucker's slippery, so we'll get it all into the bowl eventually, all right? So same thing, I'm gonna cut that core piece out at an angle, right? Set that down and slice, right? Make sure you're going all the way down through the board. Use the back of your knife for that leverage to get that cut in there. Slices here. Like I said, I need about 3 cups of pineapple, right? So we're getting close. So I don't want to waste it though, so we're going to use it all up. Right? So this is a recipe, but you know, you guys know with cooking and things that we've done in the past, right? That it is, a lot of it's interpretation too, right? So a little more of this, a little more of that. If you really like cilantro, you know, add more in. If you don't like it, leave it out, right? You could use parsley instead to help get you the color. If you want the salsa to be really spicy, instead of 1 jalapeno, you can add in 2, right? Or you could use a different spicy pepper, you know, like a Thai chili or habanero, right? Scotch bonnet, things like that. Okay. So this is really easy to change and modify into something that fits your taste buds. Okay, so I got my big bowl of pineapple now here. Show you that all chopped up and ready to go. Okay, so get that all set. All right, I'm just going to take a little paper towel, wipe all this down real quick. So like I said, because it's going to be a little bit on the slippery side. Now this is going to use a red bell pepper next, right? Chopped up, but you could use red, green, yellow, whatever. The red is mostly just to help offset the color, right? Because we've got some yellow, we're gonna have green with our cilantro, we're gonna have a little bit of purple shades from the red onion, right? So this will help give it a little bit of pop of color, okay? Now, when you're working with your peppers, right? I like to slice them down around the outside edge, right? So I wanna go, you know, close to that stem as I can, because I don't wanna waste the pepper, okay? And that's what often happens is, so I come in here at the top, you can see close to it, right? And I'm just gonna follow the shape of the pepper and let it curve down, right? So I'm gonna cut right around the seeds, right? So my goal is to have left is just the stem and that little seed pod, right? And that's it. So that way I'm using up all this pepper and I'm not wasting a bunch of it, okay? Now, if you find that there's, you know, big pieces of the white ribs inside, right? Just take your knife and shave them out. Now for this, for the pepper, we want to get this into a little bit of a small dice, right? So for that, you want to cut these into some strips and then dice them this way, right? Just like we just did with the pineapple. Okay. That. So we're going to use the whole pepper. Now the onion, I have a pretty big size red onion, right? And they call them red onions, but honestly, they're more purple than they are red. Right? So that's why it gives us another really nice shade of color to add to the salsa. Okay. And it's a really big onion, so I'm only going to use half of that, right? I want to get about a half a cup of diced onion, which I'll do in a second. All right. Like I said, just cut into some nice even strips and then slice it down, right? And that'll give you a nice dice size pieces. Okay, so we're going to add that to our big bowl here. All right. Like I said, just wipe your cutting board in between things too to help keep things from getting too slippery, right? So like I said, so red onion, like I said, looks a lot more purple, right? Especially when we cut on the inside. So remember with your onions, right? So stem end, this is the part that goes out of the ground, right? And these are the roots down at the bottom. So we want to trim off just the stem end only. We did this a couple videos ago, right? And then I'm going to slice down right straight through the root to keep this attached because it'll stop it from falling apart, okay? So let's shave off just that stem end to give me a flat spot, right? And then I can take and have a flat spot to keep it sturdy so I can cut down, just like I did the pineapple, right? Right straight down through the center. Okay? I'm only going to use half. I'm going to take this half, and then I'm going to peel this real quick. It's easier to peel once you get that cut in half. Okay? And you'll notice sometimes too on your onions, right? You get that little white film between the layers. You just wipe that off real quick. It'll make it easier when you're cutting it, that it won't slide your knife up. Okay. So I want to get this into dice-sized pieces, right? So I'm going to take and I'm going to make my cuts up towards that root end, but leave this intact, right? Slice down. I said I'm just going up to about a ½ inch from that root end, right? And this is a really thick onion, so I want to slice this down just a little bit, but always keep that at an angle, right? And away from you, right? So in case the knife slips, it's going that way and not near your fingers, okay? Now I'm just going to slice this down nice and thin, right? Some nice thin little pieces here. Right? And look at that pretty color, right? So now you can see this is going to be a very colorful sauce, right? Remember, you know, you eat with your eyes, right? So you want something that tastes good, but you want something that looks good too, okay? Get down the end here. That should be plenty. I said this was a really big onion. We're only going to use half of it, for, right? So I'm going to add that into my pineapple and bell pepper, right? And now I'm going to add in some fresh cilantro, right? So those of you in nutrition class know that Chef has a garden, right? So I went out this morning and I picked some fresh cilantro, right? It's really young, so it's going to be nice and flavorful though. And I want to get off these bigger stems here on the bottom. I'm not worried about the little delicate thin stems, right? Those will chop up nice and fine, okay? So I'm just going to shave off just those really thick bottom stems, okay? And then we're going to chop this up. We need about 1/4 cup total. Okay, so come down a bit here for you guys. All right, so you just bunch it all up together and just run your knife through, right? Nice, thin. Remember to keep those other fingers on this hand, right, tucked in so that protect those little fingers, right? So run that through, and if you want it a little finer, just run the knife through it a couple times. Right, it smells really good. So this will give a lot of flavor and aroma as well, right? Then we're going to need a couple of limes squeezed, so 2 to 3 limes depending on the size. So if they're really big limes, you may only need 1. So these ones are kind of on the small side, so I might need 2, I might need 3. I'm going to taste it after and see if I need to add more. So I'm going to start with 2, okay? So with the limes, have them at room temperature, right? Give them a little quick roll with your hand, right, to help get that juice loose in there. And slice that right down the middle. And these smaller limes tend to not have seeds, but always watch for seeds though, because you don't want to be eating those. All right. So now with your limes, right, just gonna give them a really good squeeze. Okay? So this is when you're gonna use those cooking muscles. Okay. And they're pretty juicy, so we might only need 2. All right, cut my second one here. So like I said, just give it a little roll, slice through. And this also will taste good right away, but it's going to taste even better later on when it has a chance for all those flavors to macerate, right? So that they all kind of blend and meld together. So my last part of this, last couple parts, I got a little bit of salt I'm going to throw in, right? So about 1/4 teaspoon, so a good pinch of salt to help balance out that sweetness from the pineapple, right? And a lot of times what you don't realize though is a little bit of salt will actually help make things a little sweeter, right? So that's why salt goes into a lot of baked goods. So I'm going to use 1 jalapeno, right? So I'm going to slice this end off here, the stem end, right? Give that a little trim, and then right down the middle. Now, if you want it spicier, you can leave the seeds in. Texture-wise, I'm not a huge fan of leaving them in, so I'm just going to run my knife along the edge of each side, right, and just pull that little seed pod out, right? You don't have to get every bit of the membranes out, that's fine. but just the seeds. Okay. So pull that out. Now be careful anytime you're working with any type of hot peppers, right? You want to make sure afterwards that you're not sticking your fingers in your eyes, your nose, your mouth, things like that, right? Because it will burn, right? You're not supposed to be touching your face right now anyways. Right? So keep that in mind. So I'm going to slice this up and dice it into some nice small pieces, okay? Seeds out of the way here. So that way I get a little bit of heat all the way through. So much smaller than the bell pepper, right? So little tiny pieces. Okay. Slice this down, same thing. Just give it a quick dice, right? And this is a great recipe to practice those knife skills, right? Those of you who had science of cooking in the fall, right? Remember doing all these techniques, right? And that's it, right? So now I've got everything in my big giant bowl here, right? For the salsa. So I'm just going to give this a really good stir and just let it sit. All right? You're going to see how pretty and colorful it is. All right? You want to make sure everything gets blended all the way through. So everybody, when they get some, they get a little bit of everything for flavor. Okay. And there you go. Look at that. Okay. So there's your pineapple salsa. Now what I'm going to do real quick is just saute a little bit of shrimp. So I've got my big saute non-stick pan here going. Right. Turn the heat on that. Get that cranking up for a minute. And then I'm going to talk to you about shrimp for a second. And shrimp is easy to cook, right? I never buy it cooked. Chef's cheap, right? And why buy something that I can do myself, right? So when you buy shrimp, there's a couple things that you need to know, right? So you buy them frozen like this, right? This is from Market Basket. You see there's a number there, right? See that 4150 number? Okay. And you'll see different bags have different numbers, right? So what that is, it's about how many shrimp you get per pound, right? So if it's 4150, that means I get 41 to 50 little shrimp for every pound that I buy, okay? If you see a number like 1620, that's the larger shrimp, right? So the lower the number, the bigger the shrimp, okay? You'll see right here, these ones say great for sauteing and stir fries and things like that. And they're gonna be perfectly fine for what I'm doing here today, right? So I get these raw, right, with the shell on. So I've got this bowl here, shrimp that I've already peeled and things earlier, but I saved a couple to show you guys what they look like when you buy them as is, right? So I defrosted them, I put them in my fridge overnight, right, and I let it thaw out. These have the shell on, right, and the tail, which you could cook that way and just pop them off and eat them, right? And what you're gonna see too is that the shell's already been cut through here up at the top curve of the shrimp, right? That's where that main vein is for the shrimps. That means it's already been deveined, okay? So they've done one step for me, right? If they haven't done that, you just run a little paring knife across the top and then you rinse that out. Okay? So with the shrimp to peel them, since it's already been cut there, it's easy to go in and just pull that peel away, right? Now what's a little bit harder is the tail end of this here, okay? So if you've ever eaten shrimp with the tail on, if you give this a good little squeeze, right, little pop, that tail comes right off, okay? So do that again real quick. So I saved a few of these to show you guys. So you just peel it off, peel it back, give that tail a pinch, right? Loosen it up. Now I'm going to season these shrimp up too, right? They don't come pre-seasoned, right? Especially if you're buying them raw like this. And I love to buy raw shrimp because I like to control how long they're cooked, right? Quickly saute them, I quickly steam them, and things like that. A lot of times when you buy shrimp that's already been cooked, it gets a little bit tough and chewy, right? Especially when you go to reheat it in a dish, right? It's because you're doing a second cooking and not just one, right? So I've got my shrimp here. I'm going to put a little bit of kosher salt on there, right? Like I said, it doesn't come pre-seasoned, right? Good sprinkling of salt. And then I'm going to use a little bit of Santa Fe seasoning. And now this is a blend that we've made and we've used in class before when we do our Southwest cuisine. This has got red chili powder in there, crushed red pepper, garlic, onion powder, black pepper, right? It's got everything already in here. So I'm just gonna take and cover that, right? And it's gonna give me a little bit of spice, a little bit of heat to go with my salsa, okay? So it's not an exact measurement, right? I just like to really nicely coat the shrimp, right? And make sure you wash your hands after, right? Which I have to do. Okay, I just want to get a nice coating on there. And I like this, the flavors of this, right? There's a little bit of cumin in there too, right? It's going to give it a nice smoky flavor to it. I can feel my pan behind me heating up here, so I'm just going to throw in a little bit of olive oil, right? And I'm going to turn it down now that it's nice and hot. Right? So a couple of drizzles, about a tablespoon or two, right? So this part of cooking, when the more you practice it, the less you have to worry about, you know, exact measurements and stuff. It starts to come to you, right? So just a little oil to coat the bottom of that pan. And I'm gonna toss my shrimp in, the whole bowl, right? You're gonna hear some sizzle. This is what we want. Right? Have a pair of tongs handy, so that way you can spread the shrimp out into a single layer as much as you possibly can, right? Now, the nice thing about shrimp, like I said, they are super fast to cook. They have a built-in thermometer, right? It's not like chicken when we have to take the temperature to 165, right? Seafood needs to be cooked to at least 135 to 145, depending on the fish. But these will start to instantly turn pink. And once they're pink on both sides, it will probably be in about another minute or so because the pan is so hot, right? You can already see this guy's starting to turn, right? So we go from gray to that nice light pink, right? So I want to get them all pink. Get that in there, so, right? Toss. And I'm going to show you guys how to plate this up. Right here. Don't need. Any of them that, you know, one side's not done, just give them a little quick, right? We don't want to overcook our shrimp either because that's going to make them really tough and chewy. Just want to get a little bit of color, right? I'm going to take it, I'm going to set up my plate here. Give this another second. Then you can see that these are already done, right? Okay, super fast. Right? That's why I don't buy already cooked shrimp, right? There's no need. Save a little money and get yourself more money to use to buy more shrimp, right? Instead of having to pay extra when somebody else cooks it, okay? So now for our plating, right? Because we've been getting a little fancier as we go here. I want to take some of my nice pineapple salsa, right? I want to make sure I'm getting a little bit of everything as we go through. Don't worry about putting too much on, right? You want to be nice and generous, right? Nice fresh fruit. They're going to love that. Make sure I grab a little onion and jalapeno here. Okay. So now we've got our pineapple salsa all there and all pretty. And then I'm going to take and put the shrimp on. Okay. I'm going to lay the shrimp right on top here. Right. And this, like I said, this will be a great summertime dish on a hot day. You really don't have to have the stove on for long. I mean, literally that was about 2 minutes. You can do these shrimp on the grill, throw them on a skewer and cook them that way. Right. But there's plenty for everybody to share. The salsa alone makes a big portion, right? So take a few more on there. Get a little bit of height. The thing with key with plating, you know, is to try and, you know, make it look pretty, have things spread out, you know, get a little bit of color going, right? If you get any little mistakes on there, a little smudge like I just got, right, when that shrimp rolled away, just take a clean towel, wipe the edge. It's the same thing they do in the restaurants, right? So we've got our shrimp, our pineapple salsa, right? And then the last thing you want to do is give it a little garnish. So save a little bit of your cilantro from your big bunch, especially if you get it at the grocery store, right? I want to give this a little green, right? Right inside. Okay. So that is your pineapple salsa and sauteed shrimp, right? With a little Santa Fe seasoning. If you don't have that blend, you can use a little Cajun seasoning. You can spice it up however you like. But super fast, super simple, and easy to do. And hopefully you guys will do this summer because you're really going to enjoy it. Okay? All right. Happy cooking.